Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, the channel where we go through the good and bad of everything nerdy to make sure you spend your time on the best of the best. In today's video, I'll be doing a review of Lost Sphear for Nintendo Switch, so let's get into it. So Lost Sphear is an RPG from Tokyo RPG Factory and Square Enix, and it's sort of like a spiritual successor to an RPG I also reviewed on the channel, I Am Setsuna. And it's not really a direct sequel, but again, more of a spiritual successor because it does implement a lot of the same gameplay mechanics, but the stories don't really intertwine at all. Almost like a Final Fantasy type game in a way, where there's lots of similar elements, but again, the stories don't necessarily intertwine at all. Now, in this story, you play in a world that is slowly becoming lost or destroyed, where areas of the world pretty much just blink out of existence. And you form together as a band of heroes trying to save the world and restore the world to its original state. And your main character, Kanata, has this ability where he can use memories to restore different parts of the world. And so the story has a lot of different twists and turns. I don't really want to go much more into it than that because it does have a pretty good story to the game. So Lost Sphear is a turn-based RPG that shares some similar elements to SNES RPGs such as Chrono Trigger in the sense that some of the battle mechanics are similar. So in this game you have an active battle gauge where it slowly fills up, and then when it does fill up you have the chance to make some kind of action. So it might be an attack or using one of your spells or abilities. Also, you have different momentum gauges that fill up, and so you can choose to either attack and then it will boost it a little bit by doing that, or you can just sit and wait and then it'll slowly fill up the gauge, and then when you use attacks or abilities after that, if you time it just right, it'll add an additional boost or an additional ability to your powers. And this actually comes from different Spriteknight that you equip, similar to like Materia in Final Fantasy VII, where this Spriteknight is used to power up your abilities on your characters. Another similar element to the battle mechanics of games like Chrono Trigger, for example, is that a lot of your attacks have different ranges that they affect. And so in this game, you have the ability to move around the map, and I think they really improved on this compared to I Am Setsuna, where certain abilities would affect different parts, but you didn't really have the ability to freely move around the map. It just was kind of like wherever you attacked and ended up, that's where you were, and then your abilities may or may not affect different monsters or other people on your team if they were in or out of the range. Where this game, you can move around, where it allows you to be a little bit more strategic and better use your abilities in battle. The game also has what are called Vulcosuits, which are kind of like mech robot suits that your characters can go in and use outside of battle to unlock some special abilities, or inside of battle, unlocking additional abilities as well. And so each character has their own unique Vulcosuit and unique set of abilities. And as you traverse throughout the map, as you play through the game, you can actually even power up these Vulcosuits even further. Now, instead of like MP or action points, it uses VP, and the entire team shares this amongst themselves. So you need to manage it wisely if you're choosing to use these Vulcosuits. Now, I did mention the Spriteknight, and this is, like I said, a little bit similar to like Materia from Final Fantasy VII, where characters have so many slots, and as they level up, they can equip more Spriteknight. And there's Spriteknight that are like abilities. You can have ones that enhance your defense, that work as counters. And then you can also equip additional Spriteknight to kind of enhance abilities. So again, it might boost fire attacks, or it might boost your momentum gauge when you use it, or raise your critical hit rate. Again, there's a ton of different Spriteknight in the game that you can mix and match and customize to really create your own playstyle as you go. One thing that is a little unique, or again, that was similar to I Am Setsuna, the first kind of game in this type of series, is that the way that you unlock this additional Spriteknight is that you kill enemies, and in this game you unlock memories, which you can then turn into the magic Spriteknight shop and then convert that into additional Spriteknight. One thing again that's a little bit different in this game is that there isn't like an experience bar or ability points that really add up when you use Spriteknight. It can add these abilities you equip to existing Spriteknight if you are in that momentum mode and use the spell while one of these additional abilities is equipped, and sometimes it randomly will add that permanently to the Spriteknight. And so again, I Am Setsuna followed that similar model, but I just really don't like that at all because you can't really tell how you're going to progress and it's just randomized. So there's not really anything to progress towards when you use this Spriteknight. Certainly some people might like that mechanic, but I don't really like that at all. On top of that, you can get different equipment in the game, and each player is allowed to equip a weapon and then a piece of armor. And they all kind of have their base stats and abilities, but you are able to go to blacksmiths and further upgrade and enhance these weapons and armors with additional Spriteknight. So as you progress through the game, you unlock more, giving you more opportunities to further enhance items. And so sometimes you might go back and use an older piece of equipment because it had like an extra stat boost, but you would need to level it up significantly to be effective. Now, I'll definitely say that I enjoyed the storyline of this game a lot, but I feel like some of the gameplay mechanics really held the game back, where I kind of felt like they took some of the things that were in I Am Setsuna that I didn't really enjoy in that game and brought them over to this game. And it just kind of felt like they were stacking game mechanic on top of game mechanic just to try and find something that worked. Where again, like I said, the Spriteknight system was similar to the Materia system, but I had so much fun using that in Final Fantasy VII, and it was very addicting because you're kind of getting AP to level those up, and there's a logical progression to using Materia, where in this game, like I said, it's pretty much random. You can equip things that you want your specific abilities to kind of learn as a bonus ability, but it's just random how they show up. You just happen to use a momentum mode, and then sometimes it'll add it to your weapon. So I just really didn't like that. I want to know that there's a purpose to what I'm doing when I play RPGs, and I just didn't find that being the case in this game. The game itself, if you're trying to do maybe just like the base game and not really any of the extra storyline or extra side quests towards the end of the game, might take you about 45 to 50 hours. And again, much longer if you want to get everything you can within the game. Now again, like I said, since it is kind of a spiritual successor to I Am Setsuna, it's hard not to compare it to that game. And while some of the battle mechanics were very similar, I feel like they did a much better job with the storyline in this game and actually pulling you into the character's backstory, developing characters, where I kind of felt like in that I Am Setsuna game compared to Lost Sphear, the characters were pretty lackluster and pretty generic, where this one, there was actually engagement between characters, they had fun dialogue, you actually might feel something for these characters, versus I Am Setsuna, I feel like it was kind of done before, where in that game, the journey kind of follows a person that is a sacrifice that's going to save the world from monsters and you band together to protect them. I almost felt like it was kind of a watered down clone of Final Fantasy X's storyline, where this game I felt was pretty unique, and I don't think I've played something similar in other RPGs, so I really like that. Another thing I'll say is that you definitely need to like grindy RPGs if you're going to enjoy this game. I really do like grindy RPGs, but like I said, I want it to be leveling up for a purpose, where really often I found this game to be tedious and kind of boring in the level up process, or I didn't really feel like I was in control of anything. It was just kind of randomized and I was going through just to level up for the sake of leveling up. It wasn't to get a bunch of money to buy some new weapon or to be able to complete some quest to allow me to beat some boss or anything like that. It was just kind of mindless leveling up, and it got kind of boring and old. And I think part of the reason for this is that the game has a lot of difficulty spikes seemingly out of nowhere, where a lot of times you'll be progressing just fine and then you'll meet a boss that will totally destroy you out of nowhere, where the monsters you're fighting in that dungeon or in that area are no problem at all. You can take them out in 1 or 2 hits, they're barely damaging your team, but all of a sudden you get to the boss of the level and it just crushes your team out of nowhere. And so I felt like that was a little weird and frustrating at times, and there's plenty of rage quits as I was playing and going through this game. It actually got so frustrating to the point that I didn't even want to finish the game. And I don't think that really ever happens to me, especially playing RPGs. And I just felt like I could not commit another 10, 15 hours to try and beat the game. So it was just tedious and boring towards the end of the game for me. And it's a shame because I really like the story of the game and I wanted to find out more about what happens. But the gameplay elements just held it back to the point that I didn't want to play the game anymore. And so I don't want to go so far as to say it's a bad game. I just think it's okay. You know, kind of the similar type of review I gave I Am Setsuna, the first game in this series, you might say. Or again, this isn't a sequel, just a successor to it. But it was the same kind of thing where I enjoyed it to some extent. I definitely think that this game did a better job and it was a better game than I Am Setsuna, but it was still just okay, not great, and not really super addicting like most RPGs that I play. So I think if you do want to pick this up, if what I talked about sounds interesting to you, the gameplay looks good to you, like I said, it's not a terrible RPG, it's just not one of the best or one of my favorites. So if you are picking this up, I think I would recommend doing it if it happens to be on sale. That's how I picked it up, and so I could sort of feel like it was justified, but I would not recommend picking this game up at full price or trying to get a physical copy and paying above and beyond like retail price for this game. But let me know in the comments below how you guys feel about this game. Did you like it? Do you have a better experience than I had playing it? Do you think I Am Setsuna is better than this one? I don't know how you would, but again, let me know in the comments below what you feel. And if you guys like this video, be sure to smash that like button as it really helps out the channel. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out. And if you'd like to help us support the channel, pick out content and more, become a patron of ours at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And if you'd like to plug into our live streams and Let's Plays we do on the channel, you can follow us on Twitch at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Twitch. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.